So this isn't my usual type of video. It isn't a big analysis on me dissecting a certain scene. This is just me coming from my own personal experiences and talking about why I think the show is harmful. I'll be talking about distressing topics, so if you feel any distress or going through any of the things I talk about in this video, check the description for some links that I hope will help you. Thank you. 13 Reasons Why is a show that, on the surface, seems like a good thing. It presents itself as an honest and true rendition of a young girl's suicide and the aftermath of it on those who knew her best. In fact, it's a genuinely great concept. But that isn't what the show is. Now, I've only seen the first 2 seasons and that was a few years ago, but I'll be mainly focusing on season 1 since that's where my biggest problem with the show lies. The title isn't misleading or clickbait. This is my honest opinion. You don't have to share it, but I hope that you can be respectful either way. Now, season 1 I actually quite enjoyed when I first saw it, or at least I thought I did. You see, I was the prime target audience. I was 15 and I was getting very deep into those teen drama shows that people my age tend to love. I originally didn't watch the show though because it was popular and I was one of those people who didn't like popular things. But a girl I liked it. So, like the little simp that I was, I started watching it. And because this girl liked it, I ended up really enjoying it. And it was super fun to talk about it with her. But then something pivotal happened. I saw the last episode. Now, it's extremely important to note that I suffer from severe depression and social anxiety to the point where I was terrified of leaving my house for a short while last year. But I'm really not here to dwell on that or ask for sympathy points. I only bring it up because it's very important later on in the video. But regardless, I was in a very bad place when I saw the season finale. So when I saw it and I saw Hannah Baker's suicide, it made me feel, I don't quite know. Initially I laughed, and not because I thought the scene was funny, God no, but because I thought, fuck, it's that easy, isn't it? And it took me to some very dark places. And eventually, for lack of a better word, I used the show as a tutorial, if you get what I mean. It didn't help me much and it really damaged me mentally. But it's not just that one scene. I brought it up because this is the biggest example of why I think the show is dangerous. The truth is, the show heavily romanticizes the idea of depression and suicide to an unhealthy level. The show paints Hannah as this angelic figure with a perfect life, yet behind the scenes things aren't just that simple. And granted, often in the case of depression and suicide this is the case. You have a relatively normal life, but behind the scenes there's some unknown factors that make your life not great. But the show takes it a step further. Hannah has a bunch of, for lack of a better word, extravagant events that lead to her death. Now this has one of 2 effects on vulnerable people watching. The first is that they feel like their depression is invalidated. You see, Hannah had a lot of drama happen before her death. Now, while a lot of these things aren't the cause for suicide, I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's experiences here. All of them jumbled together, like the rape, the sexual assault and the bullying, are only there for the juicy drama because this is a teen show. Teenagers thrive off of drama. But when Hannah goes through all of that and still isn't taken seriously by her friends, peers, and even worse, her teachers and her parents, someone vulnerable who is just feeling depressed all day every day could look at that and think, wow, she went through all of that and still not one person cared. If I ever speak up, no one will care. And I know this from my own personal experience. This kind of mindset is very unhealthy as this makes vulnerable people feel even more alone and it makes the already enticing option of suicide look that more desirable. The other outcome is much worse in my opinion, and it's all to do with the character of Clay Jensen and the present day of the show. For those of you who don't know, the show is set after Hannah's death and follows Clay as he listens to a box of tapes, describing each person that led to Hannah's suicide as a pseudo-revenge thing. This massively glamorizes suicide because vulnerable people will see this and think that all the people who hurt them will get what they deserved after they're dead. It's also harmful in a way to the loved ones of potential victims. In the show there's a scene where Clay is talking with Hannah and she asks him to leave, and so he does. This is one of the reasons she ends up killing herself.
But you walked out the door. Like I told you to. Why'd you have to leave? It was the worst thing.
Not only does this put the idea into vulnerable people's minds that people who truly care for you know what's going on without you having to tell them and that they'll always stay with you, but as we see with Clay, if a friend or family member found out that they could have prevented that suicide if they just stayed for a little while longer, they would feel guilty and hate themselves. I bring up Clay because this is exactly what happens with him in the show. all throughout season 1, he's feeling guilty after Hannah's death, and he actually ends up developing some sort of mental disorder around it. I personally think it's schizophrenia because in season 2, he keeps seeing ghost Hannah. But just bear in mind that this is my own personal interpretation. I'd also like to go back to Hannah's death scene for a quick moment. But before we fully get onto that, I'd just like to quickly mention that the only footage I could find of the old suicide scene was through a fan cam. And that kind of just proves my point. Somebody saw this scene and thought, man, this is so beautiful, I need to make a fan cam. No hate, no shade to the person who made this, I'm sure they had no ill intention, but I just think this further proves my point on why I think the show is dangerous. If someone can see a teen girl end her own life and think, this would make for a good fucking music video. Now thankfully Netflix have since changed the death scene, it's now a lot more tame and doesn't even show her actual death, but the original one is pretty bad. Not only did many people, myself included, see it as a blueprint on how to end your own life, but it also romanticizes the hell out of suicide. Everything from the music to the lighting and the camera angles, it all says, look at how beautiful Hannah is as she ends her own life. This is not only bad, but grossly irresponsible of the creators of the show. They showed a young girl end her own life in such a graphic way that suicide rates rose by 13.3% after this episode aired. The worst thing in my opinion is that the change to the less graphic version took over 2 years. I find this utterly disgusting. Look, I don't want to sit here and lecture you, I don't want to be a faceless voice shouting into the void about this show. I want to live with you. Face to face, man to man, or woman or whatever, I don't really care. Just you and me, that's why I switched to camera stuff. This topic, well, it's very touching. This show has personally negatively affected me. For a few weeks after I saw the finale, I attempted to end my own life. I would show you, but it doesn't come up on camera. Maybe you can see it there. You might be able to faintly see it. I don't know. Luckily, I was okay. But I would have been a whole lot better if I hadn't seen the show. Because the show put the idea in my mind of how to do it. 13 Reasons Why isn't just dangerous because some vulnerable people might see it. It's dangerous because it's targeted to those vulnerable people, and it doesn't take enough time to properly establish and explain the massive effects that depression, anxiety, and suicidal tendencies have on the vulnerable people who are watching. The show is aimed at these people because the people behind the show, I'm not talking about the cast, the director, or the writers, but Netflix themselves, know that angsty teens who suffer from these mental illnesses will watch the show and that they'll make more money. At the end of the day, that's the most dangerous part of the show. I'm not trying to sway your opinion on the show. If you like it, that's great. But to me, and many others like me, this show is a massive romantification of suicide and depression. It makes us feel more alone. And it makes us feel like suicide, which we've now been shown how to do in great detail, and we've been shown how easy it is to do. It makes us feel like it's the only way out. It's made depression trendy to the point where in the current climate, depression is seen as desirable when it really isn't. The show is a danger to people with mental health problems. So if you or anyone you know is suffering from mental health problems and are curious about the show, please don't watch it. Do something else. I'm begging you. I just want you to stay safe. There are links in the description to the Samaritans as well as more information about depression and suicide if you need them. Look, I don't want to scare anybody, I don't want to make you hate the show if you love it. I just want to get my thoughts across on why, to me, the show is dangerous. Because it is. It's negatively affected me greatly. I just wish that with the show they'd taken more care with the topic of suicide and depression. Because to me the real danger lies in the mishandling that Netflix has done with the show. But that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this more personal video. But yeah. Cheers for watching and have a nice day.